Hello and welcome to Sew Saturdays. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a bikini bottom and top. I have the pattern cut out for the top already, and this is 8 inches on each side. We have 10 inches across and a 1-inch curve. Now you may need it smaller or bigger, and you can just adjust. Basically what you want to do is measure from about midpoint right here, and measure down the side, down the front, which is probably going to be the same size. You measure across, and then you want to measure your curve. So that's how you get that measurement, or you could use your bra. So I have this already. What I have here, I have 2 different bikini bottoms that I want to show you. This one is a little bit more sexier. It's kind of more like underwear than an actual bikini. I bought this years ago and I never wore it. I still have it actually. And then we have the more fuller butt and front. So basically what you want to do is trace the back and then trace the front, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. If you don't have bikini bottoms, use a pair of underwear. Use a pair of underwear. If you get into making things for someone else, you can always readjust the size. If you're doing custom orders, you're going to want somebody's measurements anyway, so you're going to want them to measure across the front and across the back, and then you can adjust the across the width of your vaginas. You're going to want to know that everybody's is different. Everybody's width of their vagina, some is smaller, some is larger, so you're going to want to know that. So again, if you're doing a custom order and you're going to make your own patterns without using underwear or a bikini, you're going to want to know the measurement across from probably, if you look down, you're probably however they want it, so probably from here to here. Bone to bone is what I say. You see that? Bone to bone is what you want to measure across, and then of course measure across your back, and then the width of your vagina. I know it's kind of gross, but I'm just trying to tell you here. So that's what you have to do. So now we're going to get into how to trace the pattern, and I'm sorry, how to trace the bikini to get the pattern. Okay, so first we're going to trace the back. So I just have a little drawing pencil here, and this paper is actually shipping paper I got from the Dollar Tree. I don't use pattern paper often because it just costs too much, and this actually works better for me because it's cheaper. I could buy a ton of it, and it works as a pattern. So what I'm just going to do here is just trace, and I'm going to trace just a little bit more outside because you want to think about the fold. You want to think about the fact that you're going to fold this over, so you want to accommodate for seam. You want to do a seam allowance here, so you're not going to cut exact. You want to probably cut about 5/8 or an inch wider than what the size is here. So I'm just going to kind of go around. And that's my daughter saying hi. Here we go. So basically I'm just tracing outside, and then you will see there is a seam here, so you will know where to stop for the front and where to stop for the back. And you can make your lines even when you're done by just taking a ruler and evening everything out. It kind of really doesn't matter because you're gonna fold this over for the seam anyway, so it'll be even once you fold everything over. So I'm going to make mine just a little bit longer here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And if you want to be sure it's even, what you can do is just take the paper, fold it in half, and then cut it out, and that way you will get an even cut on both sides. lot of times when you're freestyling it, you know, things get uneven and you can just pretty much mess things up by things being off or uneven. I say if you're making it for yourself, great. You can make mistakes, you can fix them, but if you're making it for somebody else, you really want everything to be correct. So I'm just going to make my lines and then I'm going to go ahead and trace everything else later to make the lines even. But now you're going to go across the back here and just trace the top. And that's kind of too wide. Mine kind of curves down. So you want to be conscious of how the curve of your bathing suit is going, because you don't want to do a straight line and it's not going straight across, because it's going to just look ridiculous when you finally do it. So I'm going to cut mine in half. Anyway, but that's the back part of it. That's how you trace the back part. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and then we're going to do a pattern for the okay. So for the front, how we're going to cut it is we have the front facing down, as you can see, and the back is facing up. So what I'm going to do is measure across my front, and as you can see, you want to pay attention. You don't want to measure this line, because this here is your back and you already measured that. So you're going to measure your front here. So what I'm going to do is lay that down. I'm going to pay attention to what I'm doing here to make sure I'm just measuring. Okay, so it may look like I did measure out a little too wide here, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and flip this over so I can see that I'm actually measuring the front and not the back. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and trace this along this curve here. So that I know I'm getting the front. I hope my head wasn't in the way, but I'm just going to show you again what I did here. You want to make sure it's laying flat. If you have too many lines, that's okay. Don't worry about that. You can always fix it, but you just want to pay attention to the line that you are measuring. So what I'm going to do is pull this just a little bit so my front is laying flatter. That way I can go ahead and measure the front. So right now, like I'm showing you, I'm actually measuring the front and not, tracing the front and not the back. Because we already traced the back piece, so we don't want to do it again. And like I said, go ahead and make sure you're giving yourself enough seam allowance when you're tracing. Because you don't want to get it and then you realize that it's not enough seam allowance, and then you know it doesn't look how you want it to look because you didn't trace correctly. So mine actually ends here, so I'm going to make a line to show where the natural seam ends and then where I want my seam to begin. And I'm going to use a bigger marker probably to go ahead. So that's the natural seam ending, and I'm just going to make mine a little bit longer for seam allowance. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side when I trace, and just trace the front and not the back. So again, I'm laying that flat. I'm going to go ahead and trace around. And make sure I'm laying everything flat so I'm getting a proper trace here. And you'll know the difference between your back and your front because the front is always smaller than the back. The back is always going to be wider, for your butt. And of course, if you don't have the right size, again, like I said, if you're making this for someone, you can always like go to Walmart or a thrift store or something and find, you know, the size that you're looking for the person that you're making it for, or a pair of underwear. If you already have a pattern made and you need to know how to adjust the pattern to fit the person that you need to fit, I will put some information in the description to show you how to resize a pattern, specifically a bathing suit pattern. So now that I have the sides and the front measured, I'm going to go ahead, traced. I'm going to go ahead and trace the front part of the suit. And mine kind of curves in the front, so I'm just going to go ahead and trace around the curve. And once you get the hang of it, you can make these suits look however you want them to look. You can connect them and make a one piece. You can make a high waist. And you can see how it looks different than the back. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and fold this down the middle so I can get an even cut on both sides. Okay, so here we have our front piece, and what I basically did is I just ironed it out, the paper, because the paper was rolling, so I just ironed it out. So now we have our back piece and we have our front piece. So you can choose your fabric. I suggest if you want to use like cotton fabric or like a silkier fabric or just like a decorative fabric, you always use like a spandex or a lycra lining, because if you're going to get in the water, the regular fabric or the decorative fabric is just not going to work for you. So you always want to have like a lycra or a spandex lining. Right now I don't have that, and this is just for tutorial purposes. I had a request to do this, so I just want to show my friend how to make this. She has the fabric that she needs, so this won't be an issue for her. But this is actually a size small, so this pattern that I cut out was actually a size small bikini bottom. And the top piece, I'm sorry, I'm like losing my memory today. I don't know if I already showed you for the top piece, but you're just gonna measure, and this is probably a little big for me, but I'm just gonna probably adjust it anyway. But this is 8 inches across, and it's just a triangle. All I did was cut out a triangle. So that's what I have here. Oh, look at my gut. Okay, so it's 8 inches across for each side of the triangle, and then you're going to do a straight bottom first, which is 10 inches, and then you have a 1-inch curve. So once you trace the 10 inches across, you're going to measure down 1 inch and then do a curve. So you're going to cut 2 of these pieces, except if you're using decorative fabric and lycra or spandex fabric. You're going to want to cut 4 pieces because you want 1 piece of the top fabric and 1 piece of the lining fabric. And for the bikini bottom, the front and the back, you're just going to cut again 1 piece if you're using spandex or lycra, and then 2 pieces if you're using a decorative fabric, 1 for the outside and 1 for the inside bottoming. You can go ahead and put a strip in between your private area if you want. Again, I'm just doing this for tutorial purposes, so I'm just going to show you how to make it, and then you can decide what you want to do for the after effect. And again, this is for a size small, so I will put in the description how to adjust a pattern. Again, you could use a bathing suit that you already have, or you can use underwear to size out your pattern. If you have a one piece, you're just going to fold it in half and then measure out the back and the front like I showed you, unless you have bikini bottoms, and then you could just measure it that way. So let me go ahead and find a fabric that I want to use for this tutorial. Okay, so I want to show you really quickly that we have all of our pieces here cut out. This is the back piece. Just so you know, I didn't have any fabric that I wanted to use for this tutorial, so right now I'm using fat quarters, which is not the best thing to use when you're making a bathing suit, because see, there's no stretch. But this is for just for tutorial purposes, and I hope you get what I'm trying to accomplish here. And they're all different colors, sorry, but I have not gone back to the fabric store yet. So these are our squares for the breast part, and what you're going to do, oh, and I'm sorry, we have our front piece here. So we have all of our pieces cut out, and what I'm using for this tutorial for the top is basically a long string that's going to go underneath here, and then we have the two strings that are going to go across the top and tie around the neck. Then we have the four strands here that we're going to use to tie the front and the back together. So what we're going to do is start off with our front piece. And just a little tip, when you have things that you're folding over that has a curve, you just want to make a tiny slit in it, so that when you turn it over, you won't get that that little gap that you normally get, that makes it even harder to fold over. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of this. I'm going to turn all these over, and then we're going to start putting everything together. Okay, so we have our bottom piece turned. We have it folded over here for the seam. We're going to do that. I put the string on the corner inside here, if you can see that, and just kind of folded that over, and then I put it on the inside, and then I'm going to sew this down like that. So that's our front piece. And then for our back piece, I put the string in, if you can see that, where it's folded over here, because instead of doing it like a pointy end, I did more of a square end. So we folded our seam over twice here, and then we put the string on the inside, and we did that on both sides. So as you can see, we're all folded over here, and at the crotch area I folded this over twice as well. So now we're just going to go ahead and sew along the lines here, across the back, across the crotch area, and across here. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to do where I have the first string. We're going to go ahead and sew that piece first. I'm going to reinforce the stitch here, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to lift this up. So what I'm going to do to keep it in here is just turn it slightly and just go ahead and go down. And that way we don't have to pull it out and start over. Okay, so we got the back piece together, as you can see, and I didn't sew the sides together here. What I did was just tied it. That was the purpose of our strings. And I learned something myself today. Using back quarters is the wrong type of fabric to do for a tutorial. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew our top, bikini top. So you're going to do the same thing that you did for the bottoms, and you're gonna fold over your seam, just like you would for anything else. So we're gonna go through this really quickly. This is going to be super easy because you're pretty much connecting this with the ribbon. That I'm using ribbon. You're probably going to cut your strips from the lycra or the spandex that you're going to use to make your bathing suit with. So what I'm going to do here is, if you can see, I'm going to fold the tip down just so. And because it's so pointy, I'm going to fold it down again. And you can either use 2 strings for each side, or you could just use 1 string. I'm just going to use 1 string right now for mine. So we're just going to put that in there like that and pin it. And then we're going to sew that together once we're done getting everything, all of our seams rolled down. I mean, folded over, ironed over. I don't know what's wrong with me, and I'm really not feeling well. Okay, so you want to make sure you make this wide enough for whatever fabric or ribbon that you're putting through. A lot of people call this a tube, so you're not going to sew, you're just going to sew like along the top. You're not going to sew this closed because you're going to take a safety pin and put your fabric through, and it's going to, that's how you're going to connect your sides, your breast pieces. So as you can see, this is how it looks. Oh, my big arm's in the way, sorry. This is how it looks with the seams folded down, and we're just going to sew that together shortly. So what I forgot to do on the other side was give it a little cut. Like I said, when you have any curved areas, you want to give it a little slit, so when you iron it down to do the seams, you won't have a difficult time, and you won't get that bulk that you normally get when you're rolling over curved edges. Like I said, I'm really sorry that I'm not using the proper fabric to make a bathing suit with. I just have a lot of plans for all the fabric that I have right now, and this was a special request from my friend because she needs to make this for someone. So always let me know if you have any requests, if there's something you want to see me make. I say this all the time, just let me know. You can let me know on Facebook, you can let me know on Instagram or Twitter. You should be able to email me, but I will put that also in the description, along with how to resize your bathing suit. So now we're just going to sew this, and then we're going to put the ribbon through, and then we'll be done, and you'll have your bikini. So I really hope this helped. You get an understanding of how to do it or how to cut it out. You can always make adjustments when you are cutting. Be sure that if you're doing this for the first time, that you practice first. I say this all the time, I tell my friend all the time, you never want to use your good fabric when you're practicing. You always want to use like scrap fabric or just some random fabric that you really don't care about, because you will waste a lot of money using your good fabric when you're just learning how to do something. I've made that mistake several times. I've spent hundreds of dollars on fabric because I use my good fabric to learn with, which is a big mistake. Okay, I'm back, and I fixed the issue. I can't remember what I was saying, so sorry if I got cut short in my sentence. Oops, I think I'm using the wrong string too. No, I'm not. Okay, today is not a good day for me. So we're just sewing together the other other piece to the top, and we are almost done here. As soon as I'm done sewing this together, then we'll go ahead and thread through the ribbon, and then you will see how the top looks. And then I'll put them up close, or put them together so you can kind of see what they look like. But I think I messed it up. So I gotta get my needle through there, my safety pin through there. Okay, so here we have it. You have the two top pieces here. So what you're going to do is we're going to put the ribbon through, so it goes across, and then it'll be like, you know, it'll tie around in the back. Okay, so now that we have our safety pin, and all I did was I attached the ribbon to the safety pin to the end of the ribbon. And we're just going to put it through the little opening that we left open here. We're going to take the safety pin through there, and we're just going to thread it through until we get all the way out to the other side, and then we're going to thread it through the other piece that we have. Now, I'll just reiterate a few things here. You want to use a spandex or a lycra fabric when you're doing your bathing suit. If you're going to use anything other than that, you do want to definitely make sure you use that for the lining. If you're going to use like a satin or, you know, a cotton or anything other than spandex or lycra, make sure to cut your pieces wider than you would the spandex or the lycra, because what's going to happen is the spandex stretches. However, the other fabric probably won't, unless you're buying a stretchable fabric. I'm going to keep on threading this through. We're going to thread it through the other side. Okay, so now we're done, and now we have our top piece, which we put together with our ribbon here, and we have our bottom piece. And I just want to tell you once again, if you're using a different decorative fabric first, you want to cut two. You want to cut the decorative fabric, and you want to cut the lining for like the lycra or spandex. This, as I said before, I just did for tutorial purposes, so I used fat quarters, which was not good to use for this. So I learned that, and I'm telling you, do not use fat quarters, because this fabric is just not right. It's more of a canvasy fabric, so you want to use this for more craft stuff, but I needed something to use for this tutorial. So here we are, and we have our strings, which are tied on the side. So I'm going to reiterate, this was 8 inches down for the triangle, it was 10 inches across, and it was a 1-inch curve. And for the bottoms, I just simply used the bottom half of a bikini bathing suit that I already have. But if you don't have that, what you can use is your one piece and just do the bottom half, measure the bottom half like I showed you in the beginning of the video, or you can use your underwear to show you how to do that. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and as always, see you next Sew Saturday.